All right, everybody, it's the Jerry Metcalf podcast where top real estate agents tell how they do it. And today we have someone back on the show, but it's been well over 100 episodes since Jason O'Neill from Carmel. I had to practice that, by the way, but Carmel, Indiana with Circle Real Estate. Jason, good to see you.
Oh, it's so good to see you, Jerry. Thanks for having me back. It was fun kind of going down memory lane. I think you said it was episodes 52 and 99.
Yeah, so episode 52 is, oh gosh, y'all, excuse me, but selling versus marketing. It's about relationships. Episode 99, success. It's not about how, but who, which actually I would argue that you taught me a lot about how to do business that I'm applying now. So I love it. But yeah, and today we think we're going to talk about business, building your business and building your brand, because you've got some great advice. We might even revisit on those things. But how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Like everywhere else, the market's a circus. And we got a lot of characters in the circus sometimes too, but it's, all in all, it's been a dynamite year.
That's awesome, isn't it? Like, I love it. A circus. It's crazy, but it's awesome. So let's get going and talk about. I'm going to give a little intro to you for those of you who are at least listening to this online or didn't get the intro before the show starts. So Jason and I met because you're a top agent at Sotheby's International Realty in your market. You gave an amazing speech at a mastermind I attended, and I think I tracked you down. And I was like, that was so good. And then you were on the show. And then a few years later, you were with Century 21, and you were a CEO of about 7 offices that you ran. So I'm so excited because if that's when we last spoke, you had just started that, or maybe.
Yeah.
And now you've got your own brokerage, and you seriously, guys, talk about somebody who knows about systems, excellence, achieving things quickly. It's Jason O'Neill. But no, you were going to say something.
No, yeah, it's been crazy. Yeah, so 2017, I was the top single agent in our marketplace, and that same year, I got recruited to go be the president and chief operating officer of our local Century 21 franchise. And I had 350 agents and 56 employees, and it was good, but I wasn't as much in the deal or doing as much real estate related stuff, right? It was a lot more people management, recruiting, that sort of thing. And so I left in November without a solid plan because I wanted to be very respectful to that group. And I started my own brokerage. And yeah, already halfway through the year, I'm the top single agent again. And my intention isn't to sell forever, right? I want to grow the brokerage, but I haven't marketed or really even formally announced everything yet. So it's been quite the whirlwind.
It's just the business is literally coming to you and you're serving it as it comes at this point. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that probably will get to some of the, the branding stuff that you want to talk about as well.
Yeah. Question number 1 though, because I love this. It's bringing 1,000 questions, but here's my question first for everybody to hear from you and even me is being someone who is so highly effective, efficient, and successful as a result of it. How would you articulate or pinpoint what exactly is it that you're repetitively so successful? What makes you different?
So I've given that a lot of thought, and I really think it's a few things. One, it's an attitude of abundance, right? And that is, there's plenty to go around. You treat other agents well, and it's about your reputation. The second thing is it's habits. And so people say all the time to me, what's the difference between a $5 million producer and a $15 million producer? Well, it's quite simply the habits. The $5 million producer doesn't have the same habits that a $15 million producer has, and vice versa. And then finally, it's just kind of how you conduct yourself, and this is a habit, all the time in terms of around clients and referral partners and referral sources that they know that you're going to make them look good.
Wow, exactly. that one, it's until you talk to the agents who've been in the business for 10 years or more that I think, which by the way, you've been in business, I think 17 or 18 years.
Yeah, I think so.
Every time,
2004,
right, 200, I think we're at about episode 230. But every time I'm talking to agents in business, especially more than 10 years, like there's so much focus on like how I treat other agents is such a big part of where I am now as a successful agent.
Well, and it's, you know, in a market like we're experiencing in most parts of the country right now, the reputation of the agent is what's getting offers accepted. And make no mistake about it, that, you know, if I'm sure in your market or my market, if I say, look, this deal's solid. I mean, you know, we've done deals before, and you know that like I don't pull fast ones. It carries a lot of weight, and I know that the agents have conversations with their sellers of, hey, you know, I've had a good experience or no experience with this agent, and you know, I've had a great experience with Jerry in the past, and things got sideways, and she got it across the goal line.
Great point. Exactly, and well said. And so for everybody, what we're talking about, for those of you who aren't listening to this live or didn't check the date, I'm actually going to check the date. It's June. So it's end of June, 2021. COVID was a year and a half ago. The market's been blowing up. The market's hot. Inventory, I think around a lot of the country, but in Atlanta is half of what it was even before COVID, yet sales have doubled since before COVID, especially this last season. So just to like give a flavor of like, this is the kind of market we're all talking about, to put it into context. So give us on that, you know, we talked a lot actually a couple days ago before today about what are we going to talk about. We were first just sharing ideas with one another about business. And we talked about like your brand and building your business. You've done both. And question number one to that is someone who has been a real estate agent with a huge brokerage and been number one, someone who has run a huge real estate brokerage of 350 agents and 52 employees, and then back to a real estate agent. Give us what you've learned from each and what's in a picture from your perspective of this business.
Yeah, so, you know, for me, it's really about the consumer. And it's really, I think we talked about this last time, that I believe that the consumer, and I'd encourage everybody to ask their clients, ask their past clients, and then start talking to people about what do they think they pay a real estate agent for. So I started to ask that to people, what do you pay an agent for? And I talked to some clients of mine that I really know, like, and trust, and I came up with a concept. And so every time I'll sit down with a potential seller and say, so what do you think you pay a real estate agent for? And I'm like, it's a tax because I have to sell my house, right? Everyone's got some answer, but I'll explain to them, I think that you pay for three things, right? Clarity, confidence, and commitment. So you're looking for somebody to bring clarity to an otherwise confusing situation, right? You're looking for somebody to commit to your specific situation, right? I don't want to be homeless. I don't want to own two houses. I'm looking to be in this neighborhood. I'm looking to downsize, whatever it is. But you want somebody, the best agents are the ones that instill confidence in the people around them. And that might be another agent on the transaction, but it's certainly your buyers and sellers. And look, everybody's been in a situation where they've lost confidence, and that's when they're asking you for updates. What's going on? Did you submit the offer? Heard back, right? Like, when you're not being proactive. But you've also been in situations personally where maybe you hire somebody to fix your deck, and you have to spend half of your day cleaning up after them, wondering where they are. Are you showing up today? You didn't say you're going to show up. Is this thing going to be done in time for the party, right? And so now you can't do your job. So when you're giving confidence to your sellers, you're allowing them to go out there and do their jobs, right? They don't have to worry about selling the house. And it took me years to piece this together, but 10, 12 years ago, I was working with a professional ball player, and he looked at me and he said, Jason, my role in this world is to see the ball, hit the ball. See ball, hit ball. You take care of the house stuff, man. Sell it, get us where we need to go. And that's what you want to do, right? Like if you're on a baseball team and that guy goes up to the plate, you know that you've got confidence in him because he understands that his job on that team is to see the ball and hit the ball.
Oh
So I
man.
think it's clarity, confidence, and commitment. And that's one of the things that I've observed is that the agents that are focused on that and focused on being better practitioners do better in the business.
Well, so first of all, clarity, confidence, and commitment. But the other thing is, it's what I love about what you said is a great reminder. Again, so many of us, it's human nature to see everything from your perspective, even when you think it's theirs, it's still yours. But what you just explained was the sellers are the ones hiring us. The sellers are the ones paying. The sellers are the one who own the house and making the decisions. They're calling the shots really at the end of the day. What is their perspective? Understanding that. And understanding it is we are giving them clarity, or we better be, because often that doesn't happen. We're giving them confidence, or we better be, because that doesn't happen. And we're giving commitment, but we better be. In those three things, clarity, confidence, commitment, how often do you think agents are giving that to their clients?
You know, we can all be better at it, but I don't know that they're thinking about it. So let me give you kind of a head thought. And the reason that I started talking to people about this is because I learned that everyone's heard that most Americans' single largest investment is their home, right? That gets thrown around all the time. But do you know what most Americans' single largest expense is? It's the brokerage fee. Because think about it. If most people are, they might finance a car, they save for college. I mean, this is, I know we're not going to talk numbers, but if you sell a $1 million house, both sides of that fee that most agents gloss over, right? They just go right to the net, and they teach that. Like there are real estate coaches that teach that. Just go right to the net. It's the single largest expense. So I say that, and next time you go to a listing appointment, think about you're asking somebody to basically spend more money than they've spent on one single thing in their life. So don't check your phone walking in, right? Don't be distracted. You've got to be, you're there for them.
But the pressure, right? Like, no wonder this business is so stressful and nobody makes it. But in the flip side of that, it's worth it. But no, go ahead. You were going to say.
Oh yeah, it's so worth it. But I as agents, we need to be reminded of it, right? Like that this is, you're paid. Sometimes great, sometimes probably doesn't work out on an hourly basis, but you're paid well to do a good job. And just by thinking about that, I think you find that, it'll elevate you in any conversation with somebody.
Well, not only that, but going into the brand, is your brand is reflected in, talk about bringing us some clarity today, Justin. But if you think about your brand becomes the clarity, confidence, and commitment that you're giving clients. Because people think it's so many other things about the impression and how do I get them to think this and that. Well, it's the clarity, confidence, and commitment that you're giving them that is creating that brand. So how do we do that? How do we give them those things?
Well, think about your brand, or talk to your clients. That might hopefully tell you the truth. I think when I talk to agents, they want their brand to be a logo, a color scheme, and it really it doesn't matter. I don't even know that the Apple brand it's worth something. It's worth a lot. But the fact that their products work is worth more, right? Like that's what we're into.
Well, the Apple only means something because of everything that's happened behind it. The Apple is just a stamp to remind
exactly.
you of these things.
So I would say to somebody like, do you show up on time or do you show up late? Do you respond in a timely fashion generally by the end of the day? Do your text messages, do you send them with punctuation and the right capitalization? If you're making social media posts, are you talking about Trump or Biden or Republicans or Democrats or Christianity or stuff you probably should reserve for your friends and family debates? Maybe, if anything. What do people think of when they think about you? So, I can tell you, Jerry, like I know your brand, the podcast brand, right? There's always, a picture and then a cool quote at the end, right? Like and it's thoughtful. It's not rubber stampy. Yeah. So, and I can expect that your clients and your team get the same kind of attention to detail. But so that's what I say, right? Do you have a brand? You have a brand with other agents. You probably have a brand with other agents a lot more than you do with
and that
clients.
brand happens before you know it. Like all of a sudden people are telling you what they know about you and you're like, God, glad I was being nice. Like I didn't really think, like, a lot of us don't think, I think we're figuring it out in this industry, but in the past we haven't always thought about the agents. We've thought about the clients, but the agents have so much to do even with the clients. How many times are you asked at a cocktail party, hey, I know so-and-so at your brokerage or in your business or whatever, and even if they're my competition, if I love them, it's going to show, and vice versa. And the same thing happens, because at the end of the day, back to what you started with, the two things: number one, it's about a mindset of abundance and your habits. And that mindset of abundance, not being threatened and working with one another, builds more and more abundance.
Yeah, it does. And not coming from a what's in it for me place, right? Like, if you, and thinking about, relationship I have with a great referral partner. We went to undergrad together, grad school together. We left our corporate careers together, and he went into financial planning and I went into to real estate. And we've got this like circle of people that we refer back and forth. But there's nothing expected in return, except for the fact that I know my future real estate transactions are going to be better with you if you're working with him.
Exactly.
Because I can get what I need in a heartbeat.
So I love this clarity, confidence. Well, two things to get everybody: remember, successful agents have an attitude of abundance and great habits. That's the difference between the $5 million producer and the, 20, 30, $100 million producer.
So what you're doing, if you're looking, hang on, let me pause here. If you're looking to improve, like in the next 90 days, pick a good habit you want to start doing and pick a bad habit you need to stop doing. Just one of each, right? Like I need to start journaling and I need to, stop having an extra glass of wine at night. I don't know what it is.
That's easy to sum it up, to simplify it. So clarity, confidence, and commitment. I keep saying those over and over, but now we're going to go into one at a time. So first of all, clarity. I'm going to repeat something I learned from you. So we had a show and we were talking about, well, there's two things I have in mind. I'm going to share the first one. Sending calendar invites to prospects and clients. I was like, I'm going to start doing that. Well, now it's like religious. I have a whole system built around it. Thank you, Jason. That was from you. My client, the difference in their experience and the expectations. I always say, tell them what you're going to do it. Tell them what you did on the big and small level. That calendar invite reinforces that. That gives them clarity that you told them what you told them, you remember what you told them, and you followed through. Give us a little more on how you're creating that clarity. Give us maybe some bad things that happened that led you up to some stories and how you reinforce it today.
So the calendar invite one is fantastic because your competition probably isn't doing it. So right then and there, your clients are their life is run off of their calendar more than likely. And so the second you do that, you're in you're treating their world, you're in their world, right? And you're in their phone in a marketing way, right? So when the reminders pop up, and so that's fantastic. How else do you deliver clarity? It's with the having the hard conversations and being consistent about it. So, some of the conversations that we have are just challenging in terms of pricing a house, or it's a seller's market, but it doesn't mean you get whatever you want, right? I find it's very beneficial to paint the reality of the situation and then what we're going to do about it and how it looks going forward, right? Mm-hmm. So for example, Jerry, I know you want to sell your house because the market's crazy, but let's not get the cart ahead of the horse, because finding another house is going to be more challenging, right? That's good advice in this market. And selling is not good for, well, Jason, we'll just sell and go to an apartment. I don't know what the market's going to do. I think I think it's leveling off or at least plateauing. But at the end of the day, if it does keep going up and you're in an apartment for 2 years, like you missed out on 2 years of market. So you're going to buy back in at a different level. If it goes down, you win. But I don't know that anybody has a crystal ball on that. So I find just having the real conversations with people is.
Well, no, go ahead.
No, that's what it's about.
Well, what you just brought out too is when you're doing that, you're having those real conversations that are engaging, by the way, that not only is it helping them get clarity, but it's exploring to get clarity back, because you can't give clarity when there are things on the other side of the table that you don't know and that haven't been discussed. A lot of times the focus is like, okay, go to the appointment, get them to love me, get them to sign it. Okay, then we're going to pray and it's going to sell. Like that's the traditional way. But where in there is their service and where in there is their clarity, including for yourself to be able to serve the client well?
Well, that's great. That's a great point. And so to that end, one of the things that I talk about, and I feel like we talked about this last time, but maybe not. And
it's been a long time, you know, it's been 120 something episodes or more. Go ahead.
That's all right. So this is worth it. So I've found, and this is a direct conversation I have with sellers, I found that there are 3 things that drive people when they're selling. Price, timing, and urgency. And this is a clarity conversation, right? Mm-hmm. So I say, look, Jerry, there's 3 things that generally drive people, and they move kind of in unison throughout the transaction, but price is price, right? Like I'm not going to take a penny less than $900,000 for the property. Timing is, we want to be in before the kids go to school, by the end of the year, a new house is being built, whatever. We're trying to lag up against a certain date. Urgency is make this problem go away now. Jerry, we never want to get to urgency. So rest assured, I can sell your house. I can sell your house in any market tomorrow. You're not going to like the price. I'm probably a buyer at some point, right? But you're definitely not going to like the price. So what would you say is important to you? And now we're going to have, because we know as real estate practitioners that timing is probably the most important thing to understand if you're going to price the home. So if you tell me, hey, Jason, what do you think my house is worth? I'm looking to move December 15th. Well, at that point, we can get a range. Hey, what's my house worth? We need to sell it in the next 30 days. I need the cash tomorrow. What's my house worth, right? 3 different numbers.
Yeah.
And so where would you say you stand on that? And then now we're going to have a conversation of, well, it doesn't matter, right? And that's the hard one, right? We're just going to go to our place in Florida. Okay, then let's put together a strategy to try to get you the most amount of money in a reasonable time. But hey, we bought a condo in Florida. We closed on September 30th. Look, we're fine carrying it for 90 days. We're going to have to move, but any more than that, we need to be out. Right. So now we're having a strategy conversation, not a CMA conversation. Which is what you should be having. Right. But it's a strategy around them. It's not around how big is my face going to be in their yard. My face is not in their yard, to be clear. Right. Good. Yeah. Well, we need that, but everybody who doesn't know you doesn't know that. So yeah, great point. Don't put your face on the sign. Just saying. You ask me. But to that on the pricing and the strategy. So, oh my God, I'm trying to think of one thing, y'all, excuse me, but I got diverted because I'm thinking about your listing and your appointment and something else I want to make a point to. But pricing, now I remember, CMA. So many people are focused on getting that CMA. The focus needs to be the client and exploring their situation, because the price changes every week anyway, especially in this market. And that all depends on their situation, by the way, to your point. But the next thing I do want to bring light to on the clarity thing, we've talked about this before, but it's been a long time and not everybody has listened to all 230 episodes, is naming things. We talked about this before, is when you talk about what you do, giving it a label, because people remember in chunks, and you explaining a process they will not remember. So you talked about how you literally will name what you do, and that's got it, and that's what you do, not what everybody else does. Tell us a little bit. Yeah, so first of all, let me start by saying I think that language is incredibly important, right? So I don't say I'm going to show houses. I say, we're going to look at property, right? I don't know why, it's just kind of how I learned it. And I think that old school, and I still kind of believe in this, right? You're buying, when you're a buyer, you're buying a home. When you're a seller, you're selling property, right?
Yeah.
So, or a house, right? You kind of
Yeah.
want to take it out. And so that gets me to a great reminder that I'll tell you about is that I found the best way to deal with, especially with people that are used to being involved in business transactions, is to remind them that we're not selling a home here, we're liquidating an asset.
Mm.
And that conversation alone will take somebody's, if they're like, I'm not taking a penny less than $900,000. Well, really, you're not taking $899? You probably are. So, hey, look, we're not selling a home, we're liquidating an asset. And so I don't throw out hard numbers, right? I'll say, especially early on, where do you think we can get this for? I think we can probably get it around something that feels like $2.1 million, because no one's really going to blow up the deal over 10 grand. So to sellers and buyers, something that feels like, and I found that to be, wildly important. But no, so, I call it a marketing so in that calendar invite, it's marketing consultation.
Oh yeah, I do what do I call it? The listing preparation consult, because I actually have a follow-up that's instead of the staging appointment. I learned that from you too, by the way. But you talked about naming your process and naming the things that you do, and they can take that in chunks and realize, okay, this is unique. And in having a name, it becomes unique to you, which is something that they can then associate to you and your competence, which wins the business. And by the way, to the second one, it wins their confidence. And I love how what we're talking about in clarity also evolves into that confidence that they're looking for.
Every step along the way in the process, you need to be building confidence, right? Like it's always growing. And it from the clients that you have just a long track record with, that they have so much confidence in you that it's a given. And that's where you want to be. Like when you've asked about getting to a certain level, I think that when you are in your most important clients or referral partners, businesses or lives so integrated that they don't even they think real estate, they think Jerry. I mean, that's it.
Yeah, exactly. And to that, I love what you just said, because you just said the confidence when your clients are working with you is building all the time. Now out there, we know there's a lot of confidence that gets lost, which I like back to question number one, what makes you different? How are you number one over and over? You're building confidence. I think I've seen agents working with clients and literally on the self-fulfilling prophecy or unconscious belief that their seller is going to love them right now, but as time goes by, it's going to dwindle. So we just better figure out how to get it sold before they've lost all confidence in us. I have even heard that in coaching sessions.
So I was going to say that is taught. And that's the wrong way. Think about it this way. So you're building a team, all right? And the old axiom in business is, hey, everybody's replaceable. Well, that's a shitty philosophy. I don't think I'm replaceable. I mean, you think you're replaceable? Probably not. And your team members shouldn't feel that way, everybody. What if you ran a team where nobody was replaceable? That, hey, if you leave here, you are uniquely you and good at what you do, right?
Yeah.
And that's how real growth happens. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think you just integrated into the process.
So in that though, as someone who has a team, because I'm thinking they are irreplaceable, but I think that all the time, because there's this whole belief you've got to build your system so everybody's replaceable, but people really just aren't. They're not replaceable.
They aren't. And I think that you just kind of admit that and say it and you don't want somebody to leave, right? Like that you find somebody else, but it's just not going to be the same.
No. And when they're important and they know they're important, people at some point, they work for money, but they also purpose. Purpose is what I think we all are here for at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. So building your confidence with your client, I'm gonna give a little side story and then I'm gonna get you to add to it. Kevin Brown was on our show and he talked to this. He didn't call it building confidence. I forgot what he called it. But we were talking about, he said, you know, when I meet a new client, I always make a point to make them a promise and deliver on it sooner than I promised. So that, and over time, I always consciously make promises and I under promise and over deliver consistently to build, we did not use the word confidence, but it was in handling clients. So that was his method of ensuring he's building that confidence. What are some examples of what you do to make sure you're building that confidence with clients, besides your track record, by the way?
Yeah, so I use a lot of, you know, at the very beginning, I use a lot of stories, right? Of people that they might know or homes they might know. Also, I tend to use the addresses, especially of you know, prominent properties I've been fortunate enough to sell or represent. So like the house.
Keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, I'm going to tell you. I'll give you a great story about that. It's 415 Springwood is the house, and I got called in by some guys bought it as an investment, and I don't think it worked out so hot. But they had it on the market for, gosh, almost 2 years, maybe a little over 2 years, with a great agent competitor of mine, and one of the partners wanted to, you know, go to me to sell it. The other one didn't. So we met with them, or I met with them, and they were, well, what's going to be the difference between the two of you? And I said, you know what?
Wait, say that again. I didn't catch that. What's going to be?
They said, what? Yeah, why should we hire you? What's going to be the difference between you and our existing agent? And they had a good agent representing them. And I said, look, my marketing is probably going to be a little bit better. The photos are going to be a little bit better. I'll make sure the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. But sometimes you just need a change, right? Like you're in your profession as a physician, I was like, you probably had patients that come to you from another physician and like you fix their problem immediately, and somebody gets tired, it's stale. And I think that being transparent about it and saying, no, I mean, you've got a good agent, because they weren't willing to change the price, the fees, anything like that. I mean, I just took it over and reshot it. Now we sold it in like 21 days after it had been on the market.
Yeah.
And there was some things missed in online. I think it like wasn't on Realtor.com or Zillow or something like that on accident. And you know, it made a big difference. But being honest with them about not that, oh yeah, I mean, I'm gonna
don't ever sell yourself.
Make rainbows.
Right.
Yeah. So I use a lot of stories and anecdotes of people that are in similar situations. And look, for the folks that are listening out there, remember that if you're a newer agent or you don't have a lot of great stories in a particular market, sub-market, price point, you know, use your brokerage. You're definitely a we before you're a me, right? Like talk about the things that your brokerage does. But I find that anecdotes work great to build confidence, but then also kind of come through. You know, I don't know how you know him, but I know him too. Chris Voss. So what I learned from Chris.
Yeah, smile. Yeah, he's the best. Anyway.
Yes. So he did one of these with me for my benefit, not for his. Yeah. And he explained to me that, you know, what's more important than a first impression is a last impression. I don't know if you've ever heard him say it. I've never heard it phrased
all the time. Last impression is a lasting impression. I'll quote you all day long. Anyway, keep going.
But it matters. It really, really matters. Yeah. So, you know, that's how, you know, you come through. So you start here, right? And then, you know, you do something like Kevin said, and then you're here.
Build the confidence.
And then what you said is true. Then you're here, right? And you keep building. But I want your listeners and you to think about this a different way.
Yeah.
How do you build your confidence? That's the question. Because I believe that confidence is a skill, not a trait, right? It's not something that you're born with. And I think we're taught that kind of at an early age in school, that, you know, you're just born with this confidence and you're good to go. But I really think that you're.
Don't even fake it. Yeah.
It's something that you build. And for me, and this is unique for everybody, but I try not to get into situations where I'm not confident. Like it's that simple. And have I ever told you my my like living room listing stories?
No.
I'm terrible in the living room, right?
Okay.
It's just I don't know why. 'Cause what happens is like I'll get to a house
Like, you mean
and
like
somebody
a
will be like,
listing appointment? Like when you go, you
yes,
can't be in the living room. You go to the table.
yeah, because like I'm in this
I'm the
overstuffed
same.
chair, like,
And it's like you're
she's
too
over
far
here, he's over
away. And
here,
yeah.
can't present anything. So I had to develop a way to get myself out and like never have that happen, right? So I just had a script that I say that, hey, you want me to take off my shoes? Good to see you. What I'd like to do is walk around the house. I know people do it differently. Walk around the house, point out any significant improvements you've made, anything you want my advice on, and then can we sit down at the kitchen or dining room table and chat?
There you go.
No one's been like, no, Jason, we need to go to the family room and put
Well,
you over by the fireplace.
right? But here's the thing that now I'm bringing Thomas Wright in. But Thomas Wright, he's a great speaker. He's been on the show, of course. But he talks about that you can't fake the confidence. And in the listing appointment, it's the little things. And one of those is when you say, hey, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to sit at the table. They're like, I like this guy. I don't know what it is, but it's because you're in control. You're
Well,
calling
and
shots.
you are, and you are the one that needs to take control, because what happens if you don't is that a listing agent and a seller open the door and it's like, hi, like, you want to come in? And
Isn't that funny?
do you want us to show you around?
They're waiting for you to like take, that's what they need.
Yeah. And you've been in situations like that. And I always think about other professions. Imagine if you went to the dentist office and the hygienist said, so where would you like to start? You'd be like,
Right. Exactly.
I'm going to put my headphones in, sit back, and like, you do your thing, and I'm out.
Exactly. And that's what our clients need. It's their home.
Yeah.
They're asking that. They're like, please take charge of something.
So that's building real confidence right there, that you understand what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, like I said, it all builds from there. But your own confidence is what you got to work on building every day too. And that's a lot of that's the habit.
It's just like we talked about in the first one. Like when you're trying to give the clarity, you got to get the clarity. And number two, with the confidence, you got to have that confidence for them to have it. And number three, the commitment builds the confidence. But in the commitment, I'll start with this before we go into it. I can't tell you how many times we hear in this business, my client just won't listen, or my client, I did all this and they fired me. And if you ask the client thinks the agent did nothing, and they don't believe there's any commitment. So where's the disconnect, and how do we fix it? And how have you done it, Mr. Number One in your market for forever? I'm kidding, but seriously,
it's a matter of communicating and knowing what you can communicate and what you can do. I think that you're also going to build more confidence in answers that you don't have, right? And that's the old that they teach. Yeah, well, I'll get back to you later. But really, it's I'm going to send my roofer out and do it.
Yeah.
So I had a unique experience recently with a friend selling their house with somebody else because of a familial situation. But I was abundant and just graciously helping on the kind of behind the scenes, wherever I could. Like, I don't need anything. But the comment that he made was, it is a night and day experience in talking to you and our agent. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And they said, well, when we found some, inspection issues, you said you were gonna, what's your schedule? I'll send my guy out. Their agent said, you need to call a roofer. Do you want me to get you names?
Wow.
So that alone.
So, like, I'm sorry, because you so nailed something for me. Go ahead.
But it was, so like me, I'm not gonna say I did the deal for free, but I was pretty involved in it and didn't get paid, but I learned more than I ever would by the things that actually do set me apart, right?
Well, something I would bring out too is when these things happen in our business, because it's so competitive, what you did actually reinforced It's the deals you don't get that are sometimes the best ones. When you don't get the ones that are so closely related for family or whatever it is, when in the outcome, when you're the good guy, when you're the good agent, when you're the whatever it is, you end up getting referrals on the business you don't get so many times. And that you turns out you might not, like if it's over price, for example, or over it being too close to home or whatever it is. So often, I can't tell you how many times I have gotten like massive referrals off of how I handled not getting the business and what I could do to just be supportive to someone I knew in my sphere of influence, to what you're saying.
The most growth that I've ever experienced in the shortest amount of time with regard to practicing real estate was a listing I didn't get. And the guy's name was Bill, and he left me a message and said, Jason, Bill, maybe he sent me an email. Jason, Bill, sorry, we're gonna go with somebody else. And
Right.
like, couldn't believe I lost to this person. So let me know if you want to talk about it. I mean, he probably hit send, it went off on my phone, or I looked at my phone and I called him inside of 5 minutes. I'm like, Bill, hell yes, I want to talk about it. What happened? I thought we were good to go. Anyway, he said, Jason, we'll be in the car for a couple hours on Saturday or something. Can we chat? And I said, sure, of course. Jerry, he started the conversation saying, Jason, I don't know if you know what I do, but I'm a corporate consultant for acquiring and retaining customers, which means that I coach people on how to win proposals. So I have to be good at it myself because I give a lot of proposals. And I get paid, well over $500,000 a year to do what I'm doing. I'm not bragging to you. I'm just telling you that people pay me a lot of money for the advice I'm about to give you.
Wow.
And I was just glued to the phone. I remember clear as day. I was at my in-laws' house in their driveway with a headset on and just like walking up and down the street talking to him. And he was very complimentary, but one thing that he said was the other people built a better relationship, specifically with his wife, who he was clear was running the transaction for them. And he said, fees, price, either person can sell the house. So know this, right? I want everybody on the call to understand that most sellers believe that either agent they're interviewing could successfully sell the property. So think about how much people are in love with their house sometimes. We joke about like
Yeah.
and the gold nails. They believe their house will probably sell itself, right? It's, do I like you? Do I know you? Do I trust you? Do you give me the confidence? The other thing he said, Jerry, was two things. One, I didn't really review the numbers with him. I said, hey, where's your head out on price? He threw out a number, and I said, that's kind of where mine is too. We can fine tune it. He was like, you probably had the CMA, but I'm a numbers guy, and I think you knew that, and we didn't even talk about it. So shame on me. I don't know. I'd probably still make that mistake a lot. But the one that I'll never make again is, so I know you're interviewing other agents. How are you going to make a decision? And he said, Jason, what you didn't know is I had a scorecard in my pocket. I would have shown it to you.
What?
Yeah,
Wow.
he's like, we rate proposals all the time. And I knew the 4 or 5 things that were important to me. And so he goes, you grew up playing sports. Would you ever play a game that you didn't know the rules of? No. And he goes, so why would you compete for something that you don't know how to win? And he said, when you ask people, they'll tell you, or if they don't know, it's you've got the open field to tell them how to make a decision.
Yeah.
How are you going to make a decision?
Wow.
Whoever's the lowest,
Go ahead. I don't want to lose.
Yeah. I was going to say, somebody's going to be like, well, hey, whoever charges the lowest fee. Really, is the lowest fee the most important, or what you net?
Well, right there is the lowest fee what's most important. And if they say yes, don't waste any more time.
Right. And so this was, I'll close with this. I know you want to go, so we're not close.
No, I don't want to go.
This portion of the conversation.
What you just said.
So he also talked to me about, and I talked to Voss about this. There's an old book called Let's Get Real or Let's Not Talk. And so this guy had referenced the book to me, and it's a great early negotiation book. But he talks about yellow lights. And so this what I'm talking about now is probably 2015, something like that, maybe 16. Mm-hmm. And he asked me about virtual tours, and I was really, I wasn't doing them then. I don't really do them now. And he said something about virtual tours. I said, yeah, no, they give you a map on how to like rob the house, and we don't do it, and nobody uses them, whatever. And he goes, so what happens is you gloss right over it instead of, this is from the book, it's called the yellow light theory. And so in driving, people see a yellow light, they speed up and race through it when, you know, the rules of the road tell you you're supposed to stop. So in a business conversation, it's, I understand that you say that the brokerage fee is the most important thing to you. We're not going to be the cheapest. Do you want me to continue, or should we just stop now? So you deal with the issue right then and there.
You slow down when you see the light. Yeah.
You slow down. And, you know, Jerry, I know you're going to bring me an offer, and I know that your people need to be in by August 30th. We can't have that. My people cannot be out by August 30th. Do you want to move on to another house, or do you want to see if we've got some flexibility on your side? Like, I mean, it's either, so if it's a showstopper, the sooner you find out it's a showstopper, the better off you are.
Exactly. Okay, so back to this interview, and then we're going to do the final three questions, which I don't know if we were doing them the last time you were on the show.
I don't think so.
Well, they're fun. You'll handle them. Don't worry. Anyway, so back to this phone call, the things you got, because there was so much in that call. He calls you, you call him, and you're like, seriously? Like, what happened? So you learn from that. I mean, like, give us the takeaway one more time to make sure we didn't miss it.
Yeah. So, I mean, my big takeaway now, years removed from this, is, you know, always take the opportunity to learn and get feedback. Always. I mean, because if you have a bad experience in your life and you don't learn something from it, it was a wasted experience. And, you know, I don't want to waste anything, especially my time.
And the biggest one, I think, was in the meeting with the seller, is just saying, what's important to you? How are you making the decision?
How are you making the decision? Yep.
And then don't blow past it. And I think the thing you blew past on the yellow light theory was it the virtual tour?
It's a virtual tour, and it was just an example, and you know, it's just, hey, you know, that the tie went to the, you know, the guy that built a better relationship.
Well,
so
go ahead.
No, that's it.
Well, like, it makes me think of, I've been talking about Jack Cotton a lot today. It makes me think about with Jack Cotton and actually in a workshop I was doing earlier, but it makes me think about with him, he says, you know, a lot of times it's the seasoned agents start losing business when they assume the business or just think it's theirs. And that yellow light theory is you go to an appointment, you're like, yeah, but I got this. Like, just I got this. And if you're not addressing those things in that meeting, you lose confidence if you do get the listing, or you lose the listing because you didn't listen.
Well, and you build confidence. So
clarity,
I had this conversation.
Commitment. Right. Go ahead.
And so let's get clear, right? So I've said this multiple times. Hey, I know Jerry represented you when you bought the house. She's a good agent. Are you considering hiring me, or is this just a price check? I'll help you out either way. You know, and you know, it's some coaching stuff. They teach pendulum theory and that stuff. I'm not playing games here. I had a conversation over the weekend. Somebody called and their father passed away, and they said their father had a real estate agent friend, and he had offered to buy the house. And I said, look, don't take this the wrong way, but why not use the friend of your father who's gone to represent? And then he told me a story about some stuff that in the past and not a good fit for the remaining family members and the trust. And so, but we got to it right away. Like, because my thing is, Jerry, that stuff will sit in the back of my head. Like, do they really just want to know what my price is? So if you put it out there in a nice, you know, non-threatening way, it's, hey, you know, I want to know the answer. It's helpful for all, you know, we all get our cards on the table and see what we're dealing with.
Think about the outcome of that. When you have that conversation and you pull that out, it gives them it gives you clarity, confidence, and whatever commitment it is. Because what it does at the end of the day is they're going to commit to referrals to you when they're not actually using you, because they could be so honest and transparent. It builds that rapport that builds your business.
Yep.
It really does. Okay. Now, anything to add to that before we do our final three? That's good stuff.
Anything else you want to talk about?
I mean, we can get like the whole, like, how do you run a brokerage of 350 agents after you've just been an agent? I mean, that had to be crazy. What was your
That's
biggest
crazy.
lesson from that? We didn't even touch on that.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of takeaways that, you know, will make me a better agent, a better leader, a better real estate coach. Um, it's for me, it's vetting through the people that really want to grow. So one of my
Vetting
core values,
people who really want to grow.
mhm. So one of my core values is about always being better, right? Bettering your best. And I've found that it doesn't matter where you are, um, the best are always getting better, right? And it's exactly what you had said about like agents' business. You know, Jack says the agent's business starts to go down because they assume they're the girl or the guy or whatever the case might be in their market or in the neighborhood. But you know, I am fascinated with Tom Brady, and so I'll coach agents and talk to them and say like, um, you know, how's your listing process? I'm good. I rarely lose them. You know,
Tell
you hear people
everybody
say
who Tom Brady is, just in case they don't know. The
he's a like 43, 44-year old quarterback in the NFL who's won 5 or 6.
Like, I'm not even into football and I know who he is, and that is one person who does not quit. Talk about some commitment. Oh my gosh. Go ahead.
Here's the thing, it dawned on me. So like I talk to these agents and I'm always like, you can get better at your listing process. You absolutely can get better. They're like, I'm good, I got it, I rarely lose. Right. And I know there are people on this podcast that have said that or thought it. And then one time a few years ago, I'm watching, you know, one of the, you know, playoff games, and they've got Tom Brady, and he's throwing the ball, and he's got his quarterback coach just barking in his ear, you know, get through the ball, roll your hand, you know. And he's like, am I doing it? And he's like, no. And Brady's working on it. And I'm thinking to myself, if Tom Brady can get better at throwing, we can all get better at what we do. And so what I've found is that when the best get better, it's incredible. Right? So Tom Brady getting better is amazing. Me getting better at throwing a football, it's gonna be like, oh great, Jason, so you throw it 5 more yards. Like, what's the big deal? Like, he's amazing and he's getting better. So like, I want people to think about their business from that standpoint. Like, just if you're the best, getting better is exponentially great. If you're a terrible listing agent, I mean, it's gonna take a while, but you'll see improvements. Like, what one thing did you say? What one thing did you do differently? What's that?
No. Say that. Say what you just said again.
Yeah, just, you know, I think about, you know, what one thing would I do differently in the next appointment or in the next showing or the next conversation, and then like stop doing it.
Yeah. What can I do? Like, what can I stop? What's the one thing I can stop and the one thing I can start?
Yeah, and really, it's a matter of, and I think you have to write it down. I think there's magic that happens when the pen hits the paper and the brain and all that stuff. But you know, if you go and let's say, I'm not going to sit in the living room anymore, right? Like, write it down, you throw it away. I don't care what you do with the piece of paper after that. But then, you know, it's embedded in your conscious and your reticular activator. And
yeah, no, so true. All right, final 3. Number 1, what has been your most powerful resource in your success or tool?
I'm torn between relationships. I've been fortunate to have those, and you know, my personal business coach, Dan Sullivan from Strategic Coach.
Wow. So business coach and relationships. So really, at the end of the day, the people you keep around you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Get a coach.
What's that?
Get a coach.
Yeah.
Number 2, if there's a book that your career wouldn't be the same without, what is it that we've got to read?
Gosh, there are. I'm just going to go with the first thing that pops in my mind, and that is Good to Great.
What about it? What's your takeaway?
I think it's chapter 5, the hedgehog theory, and then they get into and that's, you know, being like understanding who you are and being authentic as a business, but it transpires to a person too. And then, you know, so they in the book, so Built to Last came first. I think you could do them either way, but they analyze companies that are, you know, successful over the long term. And, you know, one of the quotes in that book is, the reason so few companies become great is because they settle for good. And the difference between the great companies is that, they knew what they were doing and they operated like a big flywheel. So it was all about progress, right? And I think this transpires to the agent level so closely. The companies that were the comparison companies, which weren't as successful, right? They always had a new initiative every year, like a new initiative, and they're acquiring somebody, or they're have a sales initiative, and they're celebrating all the time for they're distracted. But yeah, that's
they're
the first
distracted.
one that comes to mind. I actually think that a lot of distraction is intentional, because if you are, and we know it personally, right? But also from a business standpoint, like if you're always into the shiny thing, or hiring the new team member or whatever, right? Like that stuff's finding stuff is fun. Like, let's be clear, it's fun. Hiring people is fun. But when you're always distracted doing that stuff, it takes you away from solving the real problems of the business.
Here's what I just got out of that I never thought about before, or maybe I did, just whatever. It's honing in on the habits and that headshot concept of, this is what I do, this is what I'm good at, and always progressing at it. Then there's the fox and good to great. When you're continuously, consistently progressing, the sad things that the fox is always up to, you don't have to go after them. You don't have to be distracted by them. Those opportunities are what come to you. Focus on the one thing.
Yeah.
Great. I love that. Book's great. The last question is, if there's one thing we need to take away and remember from this interview, if we end up forgetting everything else, what is the one thing you would have us remember?
That the real estate fee is a meaningful thing that sellers or buyers pay us, and they pay us to be professional and to operate like that. And to any true professional, whether you're a realtor or a doctor or a lawyer or a financial advisor, is always delivering that clarity, confidence, and commitment. I think that's the one thing I'd want somebody to take away, and then go back and listen to what we mean by all that.
Yeah, and just remember to keep listening. Awesome. Jason, it's so good to see you. So
You too.
Jason, in Carmel, I want to call it Carmel, but in Carmel, Indiana, which we've known one another. I think we've known one another almost a decade now. But anyway, thank you for coming on and being on the show again. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you, Jerry.
Thanks for listening to the Jerry Metcalf Podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. If you like this episode, please share it with friends. To find more episodes, search Jerry Metcalf Podcast on any platform for podcasts, or go to jerrymetcalfpodcast.com. That's JEREMETCALF